Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another very exciting Star Wars video. Oh my goodness, do I have a treat for you in this one. The Mandalorian and Grogu is doing something which has gone under the radar and not enough fans are talking about. I suspected it a few months ago, but the trailer which dropped yesterday just proved it. They've given the game away. It's right there in the title, The Mandalorian and Grogu. As well as showing us Grogu's personal evolution, they're finally going to give us some tidbits, some breadcrumbs, relating to the Yoda species. George Lucas wanted it to be a secret, and while I don't think they're going to give too much away, they are giving us something, and the trailer just proved it. What if I told you that this guy might be the same species as Yoda's, Legends, and now canon, Jedi Master? The one who asks Grogu if he's scared, and when Grogu nods, he replies, "You should be." This is obviously a direct callback to The Empire Strikes Back, when Yoda tells Luke that he should be scared.
You will be. You will be.
Now there's a reason Lucasfilm is doing this, so no more jibber jabber, let's dive straight in. After 3 whole seasons of the TV show, Lucasfilm is finally connecting Grogu to the late Jedi Master Yoda. I've always wondered if Yoda's ghost is ever going to appear to Grogu, but fans have wanted to know if there's a wider connection, beyond the superficial basis they're of the same kind. Was Yoda Grogu's dad? Was Yaddle his mother? Is Grogu someone Yoda knew back at the temple on Coruscant? And a bigger question, why did Jon Favreau make Grogu a Yoda species in the first place? But I guess I always assumed, even if Grogu rejected his Jedi training and is going to become a Mando apprentice, they were eventually going to tie it back to Yoda. In some way, shape or form, there was going to be some kind of connection. And you know, I understand the argument that there doesn't have to be a link. They can be 2 separate characters with nothing in common, no shared lineage, but this trailer is making it very obvious that Lucasfilm wants us to make this connection. They want us to think of Yoda. They've given Grogu a walking stick, he's meditating in the forest, like Yoda did on Dagobah, and of course this character we'll come onto in just a moment. Now, over the years, especially in the run-up to Mando Season 2, I've made a ton of videos on the Yoda species, theory videos about where they're from, if they're from the second galaxy of Peridia, why do they all possess the Force, and why are they so rare? I also find it very curious that Grogu shares a birthday with Anakin. Surely that's not a coincidence. As opposed to being born the natural way, is it possible the Yoda species are reactions in the Force? Was Grogu's birth a reaction to Anakin's birth? Are they a dyad? So we have lots of Grogu questions, and it seems like Lucasfilm might be starting to answer some of them. The biggest tell that this movie is going to provide some insights is the fact that they isolate Grogu for a lot of the film. Grogu is going to spend a lot of time apart from Din. Their homestead is destroyed by Embo, it seems, and they find themselves working for the New Republic, something that was teased at the end of the last season, and then they end up on Nalhutta, where Din is kidnapped by the Hutts. When Grogu is on his own in the forest, he comes across an old mentor figure in a wooden chair, someone who I think is going to train Grogu. I don't know if this creature is Force sensitive per se, but he's playing a very similar role to Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back, and in this instance, Grogu is Luke. But what really strikes me about this character's design is he looks like a canon adaptation of Yoda's Legends master, N'Kata Del Gormo, a character that was recently made canon in Mace Windu: The Glass Abyss. Now I don't think this is literally the same person, but I would wager, if this is meant to evoke Yoda, they're both High Salarians. And while there are differences between the way this guy looks and how we know High Salarians from the EU, that's kind of the way Disney Star Wars canon operates as far as bringing concepts from Legends into the new content. I mean, just look at the way they changed Rook and the Nogris. And in case you don't know, N'Kata Del Gormo was created by a Star Wars fan named Chuck Hamilton as part of a design an alien competition in the Star Wars Galaxy magazine, and they wove the character into Star Wars lore and made him the Jedi Master who instructed Yoda many centuries ago. I'd be very surprised if this guy was literally Yoda's Jedi Master and somehow he outlived him, but if somehow he is, that makes the link even better, because it means he can tell Grogu everything about his former student and tell him the ways he reminds him of Yoda, someone who Grogu seemingly knows. I do have to wonder though, if Favreau's changed his mind about the path Grogu is going to take. He recently made comments about Luke's training being important to Grogu's path, so with the clips we've seen, with a potential new mentor, it'll be interesting to see if the movie leans into his Force training more than his Mando training. He walks both paths, and he is still a Mandalorian apprentice, But you know, despite rejecting Luke's training, he still uses the Force, and they have the benefit of the fact Grogu's gonna live for centuries, so he might flip-flop between the two. I do still like the theory that he's going to be the next Tar Vista, a Mandalorian Jedi, although Sabine Wren might have beat him to the punch. But returning to Yoda, it's important to note that when Ahsoka mentioned his name, Grogu's ears perked up, as if he knew him. But was it in the sense of everyone knew him because he was the Grand Master back in the day kind of thing? Or was it more of a, he was my father kind of way? I suppose that's why it's really important that Grogu learns how to speak. And that's part of his evolution I think they're going to start in this film. Not just gibberish, not just making baby sounds, but his first proper words. And finally, my dear friends, another huge theory I love is that during Grogu's meditations, we're going to see the end of the Order 66 flashback. Where did Kelleran Beq take him? I think it's to Naboo, but it's going to be Grogu finally overcoming his trauma. We need to know where he went. Who were the friends that Kelleran Beq mentioned? And how did Grogu end up on Arvala 7 before Mando found him? And this brings me on to a wider point. We talk about the Mandalorian and Grogu being a kind of reset, and I guess I want answers from the first season that never were addressed. For one, how many remnants went after Grogu before the client? I ask this because the comics have made the situation a bit more complicated than we thought, because after Order 66, the Empire, the Inquisitors, and Vader had a long list of Jedi survivors. You would assume if the Empire knew about Grogu's whereabouts after the Emperor's death, someone must have known about his survival before. Was he a lost asset? After Kelleran takes him and he's recovered, did Kelleran get killed by the Inquisitors? And was there someone else who took Grogu and kept them in their custody until somehow he ended up on Arvala 7 with those Niktos? Honestly, I don't expect Lucasfilm to answer questions that don't relate to the plot of the film, but it is something I hope they do address at some point. Was Vader ever aware of Grogu? They would have been at the Jedi Temple at the same time, and could that maybe connect to a reason why the two characters are intrinsically linked? But returning to the main point, the movie has a strange title, but one of the big reasons Grogu is central to it isn't just because he's going to be a cute MacGuffin, which was my worry if you remember a few weeks ago, but because Jon Favreau and Lucasfilm want to get him to a point where he can be explored in other stories, away from Mando. Because like I said, this might be one of the last times they have adventures as father and son, so they're preparing Grogu to finally grow up. And because Favreau might be leaving Lucasfilm and this might be his last Star Wars project, it's a way to kind of close the book. Should they have done this earlier? I would argue yes. But look, I thought the trailer looked great, and teasing exploration of the Yoda species, that's always a win in my book, so I'm very excited about it. Could we see Yoda flashbacks? If you're talking about casual fans, and not just us the diehards, that would be something really appealing, connecting Grogu to Yoda. I also love that the trailer gave a tribute to Carl Weathers. Grief Karga is a character we're definitely gonna miss. And as I mentioned in my last video, Martin Scorsese voices an Ardenian. Absolute cinema. If you know, you know. But with that said, my dear friends, share your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Do you think this could be the same species as Yoda's master? What do you think of some of my theories? And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and may the Force be with you, always.